Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has vowed to transform the ruling Liberal Democratic Party after winning a runoff vote in parliament to stay in the top job.
He has reappointed almost all of his previous cabinet, except for 3 new ministers for transport, justice, and agriculture. CNA's Michio Ishida tells us the challenges facing Mr. Ishiba in leading a new minority government.
Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba opened his media conference by comparing the time his Liberal Democratic Party lost the government in 2009 with the outcome of the latest general election. The ruling coalition lost its majority amid a slush fund scandal that came to light late last year, leading to public distrust of the party.
それから12年が経ちました。私は今一度この思いに立ち返らなければならないと思っておるところであります。今般の実に厳しい選挙の結果を受けまして、我々自由民主党は今度こそあるべき国民政党として生まれ変わらなければならないと考えております。
In response, Mr. Ishiba said banning the use of non-taxable funds for political activities is an option, promising to set up a third-party monitoring mechanism. He said another option is creating a public accessible database on political donations, which he hopes to pass into law by the end of the year. As Mr. Ishiba prepares to lead a minority government, he will need support from opposition parties to pass his policy agenda. Mr. Ishiba said he will deepen discussion and try to reach common ground. As to his key agenda, he named economic revitalization, disaster management, and Japan's severe security situation, pointing out China and Russia's intrusions into Japanese territory and military drills, North Korea's missiles, as well as the participation of North Korean troops in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He plans to leave on Thursday for South America to attend the APEC and G20 summits and possibly meet U.S. President Joe Biden and South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. He also hopes to have a face-to-face meeting with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump as soon as possible. Michio Ishida, CNA, Tokyo.
For more insight on the path ahead for Japan under Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's leadership, let's speak now with Tomohiko Taniguchi in Tokyo. He is a special advisor at Fujitsu Future Studies Centre and specially appointed professor at the University of Tsukuba. Professor, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So we just heard there, upon winning the premiership, Mr. Ishiba vowing to step up reform. What sort of steps do you expect him to take to improve public opinion and address the party's current unpopularity? Is there still room for significant policy changes?
He has spent a lot of time describing what should be done to reform Japanese political funding arrangement, political funding scheme. And it's going to be something that's going to be discussed and debated together with his opposition party colleagues. Now he has to call opposition party colleagues because nothing can be achievable without involving some of those opposition parties. So the political funding reform is the first step that he's going to sell to the opposition party to form an ad hoc coalition. Speaking of which, everything must be an ad hoc coalition because the LDP and its coalition partner, Komeito, the quasi-religious party, have lost the majority.
Right. Plenty of issues, of course, will need Mr. Ishiba's urgent attention, from resolving hostilities within the party, Japan's economic woes, international trade and relations, especially with its ally, the U.S. What will be his priority here, and what sort of challenges could he face?
First, second, third, most important thing is to boost public support for the LDP and the coalition partner, Komeito, because July next year, there will be another important election, this time for the House of Councillors, that is to say, the upper house. Unlike in some other countries like the UK or India, the upper house in Japan does have a very strong veto power. In the event that the LDP is going to have to lose the majority there as well. There is going to be a huge paralysis. So the next several months will be very much crucial for Ishiba to gain support and to gain trust once again from the public. And everything else is secondary.
Given Ishiba's fragile position domestically, I wonder how might this impact Japan's ability to effectively manage its relations with the U.S., possibly under President-elect Donald Trump, but also global leadership role at a time its steadying hand could be necessary.
I do agree with you, but unfortunately, for the moment, I think it's nearly impossible for you to expect the kind of leadership to be exhibited by the Japanese leader. And speaking of Donald J. Trump, he remembers very well how sturdy, strong, and trustworthy his pal Shinzo Abe was. So Ishiba must counter the shadow of Shinzo Abe. And for the moment, Donald Trump is not going to pay much attention, I'm afraid, to Ishiba.
In terms of domestic politics, going back there again, Professor, some experts say Ishiba is expected to struggle in the coming months to gain consent from the opposition in policies, including the budget and other legislation. With his fragile hold on power, is there a potential for more cooperative approach with the opposition parties, or will we see continued partisanship?
Cooperative approach that you mentioned is actually a conciliatory approach. And I think there has to be a conciliatory approach on almost everything that the government is going to push forward to the parliamentary process. The reason is obvious. The LDP has lost the majority. The challenge, however, is very few acting leaders of the LDP have experiences in involving the opposition parties, trying to figure out complex quid pro quo equations. So we will see, but it's going to be very much difficult. And I have to say, as the leader of the LDP, it is the task of Mr. Ishiba himself as the leader of the party, who is going to have to bridge the gaps between the LDP and some of those modest opposition parties. And there is a likelihood that he could succeed because the moderate, quote-unquote, opposition parties have shown their willingness to cooperate with the LDP. But again, everything has to be in a quid pro quo fashion.
Right. I just want to follow up on, what we could see next year. I think looking ahead to the upper house elections in July, what is at stake for the LDP? You talk to us about its standing now and how at risk is it of losing control of the upper house? I mean, there are also questions of whether Mr. Ishiba will, in fact, still be in office when that comes around.
The Japanese newspaper organizations and broadcasting companies will take polls almost every week to test, to see the blood pressure and pulse of Shigeru Ishiba's administration. So Shigeru Ishiba has to weather very much a brutal environment. And in the meantime, in the event he has proven less popular than expected, there might be upheavals from within the LDP. Already rumors are rampant that the LDP rank and file members will oppose Shigeru Ishiba, or alternatively, some of the leaders of the LDP will have to pat the shoulders of Shigeru Ishiba and convince them that he should retire. And in that case, another election to choose the party leader must take place. But that wouldn't help because it shows that the LDP has lost its cohesiveness and the LDP is struggling very much hard. And that's going to be a boost for the opposition parties. The opposition parties are sensing blood here, and they're going to be opposed to whatever legislative bills the LDP is going to propose in the next parliamentary sessions.
All right, Professor, we'll have to leave it there for now, but thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. Tomohiko Taniguchi, Special Advisor of Fujitsu Future Studies Centre and Specially Appointed Professor at the University of Tsukuba.